October 26th, 2017. I hate Halloween. Hate it with a searing passion. Just the sight of a grinning pumpkin is enough to put me in a foul mood. And this isn't a recent thing either. I've harbored this fiery loathing for almost 2 decades now. Over the years, I've raged at the countless kids who've come to my doorstep wearing silly costumes drenched in fake blood to beg for candy. My sour mood on this blasted day can easily give old Ebenezer Scrooge a run for his money. Lily, my little girl, doesn't really understand why I'm like this. Why exactly does her doting father turn into a famed Grinch every 31st of October? I can't tell her, it's too dangerous. Just speaking about the horrors that I've seen all those years ago can invite them back into my life, like getting re-injured by scratching the scab off a recent wound. I've worked so hard to bury all that stuff deep in the garbage dump of my mind. I cannot allow anything to help dig those memories free. Not like they need much help either. Every year as Halloween approaches, I can feel them scratching at the back of my mind, trying to claw their way out to the back of my eyelids each time that I squeeze my eyes shut. Everything that had happened starts to play out like an old grainy film, leaving me a sweaty, breathless mess. Not even my wife knows what had happened to me 18 years ago, what I had seen that night. But tonight I feel compelled to write the events of that night down. I feel like it's the right time to do it, just before I go and finally bring this nightmare to an end. It was the turn of the millennium, fall in the year of 1999. I was a scrawny 11-year-old white kid living in a small town in America. Having been born in a well-off family, I hadn't experienced danger or fear in a meaningful enough way to sharpen my survival instinct. Maybe if I had, I wouldn't have gotten up to the kind of stupid shit that made me stumble into the worst mistake of my life. And we lived in a close-knit community, so I had plenty of friends growing up, mostly from backgrounds similar to mine. By far, my closest friends were Jonah, the pimply Jewish kid with the buzz cut, red-headed Ed with a plump face pockmarked with freckles, gangly Michael, the lone black friend of our group and our grade as well. And finally, there was a tough guy, Adam, who wasn't just fat like Ed, but he had thick arms that were beginning to swell with muscles. A sausage fest, I know. No, it's not that we hated girls, we just lacked the social skills required to interact with them beyond stammering out the awkward hi in the hallway. And most of those went unheard as well. The 5 of us were as tight as a fist. Others would flit in and out of the group, but the core made up of us 5 stayed intact all throughout our childhood. At least it did until we decided to summon the devil on Halloween 1999. Small towns like ours always have folk tales and legends that give them more characters than they truly deserve. Sometimes it's a haunted house. Sometimes a hairy monster out in the woods, and sometimes an insane ice cream truck driver that murders little children. Ours had a ritual, one that can help you summon the devil on Halloween and make him do your bidding. The story goes that for some reason that changes depending on who you're talking to. Satan had once been made to bleed on our soil, causing our town to acquire a special significance for the Lord of the Fallen. You see, because at one point he found himself wounded on this land, he's forever cursed to be in a weakened state here. Much more so on the night the veil separating the living from the dead turns translucent, allowing us the opportunity and the capability to summon him, bind him, and command him. Sounds nonsensical, right? Well, we thought so too right up until the moment he appeared in Michael's attic. It was my idea, of course. Who else but the troublemaker of the group would suggest something like this? My plan was to use the ritual to scare the shit out of Jonah and Ed. Do the old hocus pocus and then either act like I had been possessed by a demon, or get Adam to pretend to be the devil himself. The guy had a real gruff voice. Puberty had hit his throat harder than a truck full of cigarettes. Now that voice in a dark and cramped attic. Shit. But it could make even old Lucifer yellow as briefs. Don't get me wrong, I really wasn't trying to hurt my friends or leave them with permanent emotional scars. It was all supposed to be in good fun, just a harmless prank. Who would have thought that shit would go off the deep end the way that it did? Certainly not me. The night was still young and bustling with costume-clad trick-or-treaters and buzzed college students when it found me on Michael's porch. His double-story house was built in the colonial style with thick slate walls and a small round window in the attic that glared down the entire length of the cul-de-sac. I whistled as I hopped up the creaky steps and knuckled the doorbell, muscle memory guiding my action more than conscious decision. The door clicked open almost immediately and Adam's grinning face popped out. "Damn, dude, you're already here," I said. "Why the hell wouldn't I be?" he asked, still smiling. "Not like I have any place better to be. Quick, get in, Jonah and Ed aren't here yet." He held the door open for me. I ducked under his arm and sauntered into the living room where Michael was sitting on the couch poring over a ragged, piss-colored piece of paper. "Yo," I greeted him, "what you doing?" He looked up. "Hey, I'm just reading up on this ritual thing is all about." "Oh, come on, bro," Adam groaned, closing the door shut behind him. "You've read that thing a million times already. What are you trying to write an essay on it or something?" He raised his hands in a placating gesture. "Hey, I'm just being careful. Which you'd be too, might I add, if it was your house that we're trying to summon Satan in." "Yeah, well, the thing is, Michael," I said as I plopped myself down on the couch next to him, "Satan isn't real. It's just stuff they made up to stop you from making the bald cry." He raised an eyebrow. "Making the bald man cry?" "Yep." I nodded and wiggled my finger in the air. "They really don't want you scratching Yoda behind the ears." "Absolutely," Adam said solemnly as he sat on the chair in front of us. "They hate if you beat the bishop, and don't even think about flogging the one-eyed snake." Michael's face looked like he had bitten a chunk out of rotten cheese. "God, you guys are gross." Adam and I giggled and gave each other a high five. "So," Michael said, trying to cut our laughter short, "are we really doing this?" "Course we are," I said. "Don't tell me you're thinking about chickening out." "Yeah, don't do that, Michael," Adam added. "That's not very nice." "I'm not chickening out, okay," he said. "I don't have any problems with scaring the crap out of Jonah and Ed. I'm just saying that we really don't have to do the ritual exactly like the legend says." I shook my head. "No, we absolutely have to do it the right way. We need to keep it real or the reveal won't have quite the impact." "Yeah, I don't know." "Come on, man, I promise you the devil isn't going to pop up in your attic." "Yeah, Michael, don't be a baby," Adam said. "Screw you," he fired back. "And I'm not a baby." You kind of are," I said softly. He glared at the both of us. Christ. Less than 5 minutes later, we climbed the creaky stairs to Michael's attic and pushed the door open. I smiled as my eyes drank the scene in. It was cramped and dingy. The smell of mold and damp wood hung thick in the air. The corners were piled with broken furniture covered in tattered rags. Discarded toys and other knickknacks littered the wooden floor. Dust motes shivered in the weak moonlight that struggled its way through the round dirt-speckled window. Next to the window was a white cabinet with paint peeling off its panels. It was just large enough to allow one of us to squeeze into it. Perfect. "Where's the damn light switch?" Adam asked. Michael didn't bother to reply and slipped off to our left. Seconds later, we heard a click as a golden light flooded the attic, revealing the grime that caked the floor. "Crap, dude, you really need to get some cleaning done up here," Adam said. "Oh, I'm so sorry, Adam. Next time I decide to summon Lucifer to this place, I'll make sure to grab a broom and sweep the floor first." "You really should. I'm sure that he'll appreciate the cleanliness." I chuckled. "What, you think the devil is some kind of neat freak?" "Huh?" "It would be kind of funny if he was," I muttered and then raised my voice as he walked towards the cabinet. "Open it up. Let's see if we can fit you in there." The rotted wooden door let out a thin squeal as Adam forced it open and squatted down in front of it before crawling into the blasted thing, and then turning and facing us. From within the shadows that writhed in the cabinet, he flashed us a satisfied grin. "He looks like a frog, doesn't he?" Michael asked. "Ribbit, ribbit," Adam said. I laughed. "Just you wait there, little froggy. We'll get you some flies and shit to gobble up." "Yummy." Michael checked his watch. "Those two should be here soon. We want to go downstairs and make sure that everything is ready for the ritual." I nodded as Adam climbed out of the cabinet. "You're gonna be okay up here all alone." Sure, I'm just gonna take the time to practice my demon voice. Awesome, Michael laughed. All right, let's go then. I followed him out of the attic. A smile crossed my mouth as I heard Adam begin to growl behind me. Are you sure your parents will stay gone? I asked Michael as we descended the attic stairs. I don't want them popping up in the middle of the night and finding us pulling some satanic shit in the attic. He waved his hand dismissively. Don't worry about it. There's no way Dad's boss lets them get off early tonight. A mandatory party, I mused. On Halloween, Christ, what an asshole. No kids allowed either, he quipped. So yeah, we'll have more than enough time to have a little chat with the devil. Can't wait. At the bottom of the stairs, Michael turned right and headed off towards the kitchen. I took a second to peek out the living room window to see whether Jonah and Ed had arrived yet before following in his footsteps. In the kitchen, I found him carefully placing 3 wax candles inside a grinning pumpkin. I watched as he retrieved a box of matches from his shelf and then nodded at me. Alright, we're all set now. Just have to wait for our 2 little lambs and lead them off to their slaughter. A chill of malicious excitement rippled through me. God, this is gonna be good. We spent a couple of minutes going over each step of the ritual before the bell rang. It was loud and hollow like something that you would hear in an old church. A message from God. Go and scare the shit out of your friends, my child. I flashed Michael a grin and made my way over to the front door. As I swung it open, I found myself staring at fat Batman and anemic Robin. I'm sorry, kids, I don't have any more candy left to give. Oh, screw you, Johnny, Ed said as he pushed his way past me and waddled into the house. Hey, Johnny, Jonah said as he followed, his Robin costume hanging loosely on his thin frame. They traded greetings with Michael and proceeded to make themselves comfortable on the living room couch before showing us their haul of sweets. So is Adam really not coming? Ed asked as he munched on a bar of chocolate that he had gotten from Mrs. Abernathy. Nah, he's gone to his grandma's place, I said, quickly shooting a glance at Michael. It sucks because I think he would have really loved to be a part of the ritual. Yeah, about that, Jonah said. Are we really doing that? Of course we are. We talked about this repeatedly, remember? I don't know, man. It just seems stupid, Jonah said, gently shrugging his shoulders. Stupid? Wait a minute. Are you scared, Jonah? I asked, injecting mockery into my voice. He shook his head defensively. I'm not scared, okay? It's just, I don't know. You don't know what? I asked. I don't know. It's just stupid. Wow, what a compelling argument. You've certainly convinced me that you're not scared shitless right now. Michael rolled his eyes and Ed snickered. I'm not scared, I just think that we shouldn't be messing around with this stuff. Like, what if we accidentally start a fire or something? Start a fire? Because of 3 candles and a pumpkin. He bit his lip as his eyes darted around. Scaredy cat, I said. He frowned. I'm not a scaredy cat. You kinda are. Oh, screw it then, Jonah said indignantly. Let's do it. I'll show just how scared I am. You tell him, Jonah, Ed said. Okay then, let's do it, I said. What, right away? Jonah asked. Well, yeah, right away. Oh, alright then, Jonah said meekly before squealing in fright as Michael thrust the carved pumpkin into his face. Oh, quit it, Mikey, Ed chortled. Save some for the devil. Adam was nowhere to be seen when we entered the attic. I had made sure to make as much noise as possible when we climbed up the stairs so that he had more than enough time to pack himself into the little cabinet. Consciously trying not to look at his hiding place, Michael and I made the others sit down in a circle near the window, such that Jonah and Ed's backs were facing the cabinet. The light hadn't been turned on, and so the murky moonlight was the only source of illumination up there. The shadows added a dash of tension to the atmosphere. It took a Herculean amount of effort to keep a smile from crossing my face and giving the game away. The thought of Adam's gravelly voice seeping out of the closet, his thick hands slamming onto the back of their necks, was threatening to send me into a fit of giggles. I pursed my lips as Michael scooted forward and placed the pumpkin at the center of our circle. Alright, so you guys know what to do, right? Michael asked. Yes, Ed answered, and it was soon echoed by Jonah. Okay, good. I'm gonna go over it all once again anyway. Michael said and handed out thumb-sized pieces of crisp white paper. Write your names on these, and then when your turn comes, toss your paper into the fire and state two things: your greatest desire and your greatest secret. As simple as that, I muttered as I took one and hastily scrawled my name on it. The sound of pen scratching paper and weight shifting on wood filled the attic. As these sounds retreated, a thick and heavy silence swept into the room. "Okay," Michael said softly. It was almost a whisper. "Here we go." The sound of a match flaring to life issued, and a small bright flame floated above Michael's thumb. He used the match to light the candles placed inside the pumpkin, whose smile turned sinister with the golden glow. "So, who wants to go first?" Michael asked. "Johnny?" "Sure," I said, and then took a deep breath before tossing my paper into the jack-o'-lantern. "What I want more than anything is to be a wrestler, the best in the world, better than Bret Hart." I glared at the others, daring them to laugh at me, and none of them did. I gritted my teeth. "My biggest secret is that I steal money from my dad's wallet to buy cigarettes." It wasn't even close to being my biggest secret, but no way that I was revealing that for a prank. No, this would have to suffice. Michael nodded. "I guess I'll go next." His hand shook a little as he tossed his paper in. "What I want more than anything is to be an F1 driver." He looked at each of us in turn. "There's something about the thought of being on that racetrack, going as fast as I possibly can, and that just gets me going, man. Now, I'm not saying that I want to be Schumacher, but I would love to race him, you know what I mean?" I bobbed my head knowingly. He scratched his jaw. "My biggest secret is that I'm absolutely terrified of spiders." Ed snorted. "Oh, come on, dude, that's your biggest secret." "Hey, don't judge me. I don't have any other deep secrets, okay? I'm an open book." He seemed too jittery to be telling the truth, but I didn't call him out on it. Next was Jonah. As he tossed his paper into the fire, thunder rumbled in the distance outside. Funny, I thought. I hadn't seen a single cloud in the sky that day. "What I want more than anything is to be a surgeon like my grandfather," he said. "Saving people's lives and all that. I know it sounds a little corny, but I really want to be like him." "Grandpa's boy through and through, huh?" I said. "I dig it." He bit his lip and he let his eyes sweep over the rest of us. "My biggest secret is that I hate my parents. My mom beats me and my dad is a workaholic who doesn't have any time for me. This man told me he wishes that I had never been born. My grandpa was the only family I loved and now he's even gone." "Jesus Christ, dude." Michael swore and Ed clapped his hand on his mouth. "Wow, you really laid it all out there," I said, my eyes wide with surprise. I felt a twinge of guilt in my chest. I only wanted to scare him, not this. "It's supposed to be our biggest secret, isn't it?" Jonah asked. "The only way we would stay safe in this ritual is if we're completely honest, isn't that right?" The twinge of guilt turned into a throbbing ache. God, he was taking this shit way too seriously. I couldn't see the look on his face. Had it somehow gotten darker in here? I turned my neck to gaze out the window when my attention was drawn to Ed's voice. "All right, I'm next," he said, pulling himself closer to the pumpkin, his fat belly jiggling with the movement. He crushed the paper in his hand and hurled it into the jack-o'-lantern. "What I want more than anything is to lose some freaking weight." That wasn't a surprise to anybody. "And my biggest secret is that I believe my mom enjoys seeing me be this fat. She loves the fact that she's not the only pig in the family. I'll never get thin as long as I'm living with her. She'll keep pouring all the grease in the world down my throat. And my dad's too much of a coward to stop her." He steadily grew angrier with each word, turning red as a tomato by the end of his rant. His eyes, pricked with tears, retreated into his skull as his face scrunched up into an expression of deep loathing. An uncomfortable silence choked the attic. The only thing punctuating it was Ed's heavy breathing. Jonah patted his back but didn't say anything. Adam hadn't popped out of his hiding place, fortunately for all of us. The only thing that could make it all worse was admitting to Jonah and Ed that we had made them say all that stuff for a dumb prank. I glanced at the cabinet to give him a signal to not continue with what we had planned in case he hadn't yet been dissuaded by what we had all just heard. A frown creased my brow. I couldn't see the cabinet. When the hell did it get this dark? And why was it so quiet? We should have at least heard the sounds of cars and revelers on the streets outside. "Oh, don't cry, Ed, buddy," Michael said. "I mean, no matter what happens, you've got us, right?" "Yes, you do," Jonah added. My ears were strained for any noise from the streets outside. My heart pounded in my chest when I didn't hear anything. Right, Johnny." I jumped and looked at Michael. "Huh?" "I was telling Ed that we would always be there for him, isn't that right?" I nodded absentmindedly. "Yeah, for sure, we'll always have your back." "Hey, do any of you guys hear?" I was cut off by a noise. Heavy boots, a thudding on the attic stairs. Holy shit. What is that? You don't think that's actually... Michael, you said your parents weren't going to be home. Michael's stunned expression made me feel like somebody had dumped a bucket of ice down the back of my shirt. The footsteps grew louder, closer, and more purposeful. It sounded like a hammer on wood. "What the hell? Quick, hide the pumpkin." "Guys, that's it, I'm coming out." "Why? What good will that do?" Someone screamed. "Is that Adam?" I didn't pay any attention to Adam's attempts to crawl out of his hiding spot or to see the others' reactions at him having been this close all along. My eyes were nailed to the attic. Thoughts churned inside my head. Who was going to come in? I was desperately pulling my mind away from the obvious answer. It was too irrational, too terrifying. The door was flung open with a loud bang. A tall figure stood at the threshold, silhouetted by the yellow light fixed on the landing below. He was dressed in a black suit and wore a black top hat. I squinted, but I couldn't see his face. He walked in. As his boots clicked on the wooden floor, we rushed away from him and tried to hug the walls with our backs. He made his way over to where we had been sitting and came to a halt at the exact same spot where we had placed the pumpkin. A loud thud followed. "Guys, what's happening outside?" Another thud. "Why is this locked? Why can't I get it open?" The stranger cocked his head and looked at the cabinet. Another thud. "Hell, I'm gonna break this thing down." He waved his hand in an offhand manner. The cabinet fell silent. It was bizarre. The thing was still rattling and we could see, and we could feel Adam thrashing around inside, but no sound issued from the cabinet. My head swam at what I was seeing. The intruder, no. The devil finally tore our attention away from the cabinet. He walked towards the pile of discarded furniture, pulled out an old rag-covered chair with creaky legs and sat himself down on it. "All right, boys," he said, his voice harsh like sandpaper. "Let's get on with it, shall we?" None of us replied to him. We didn't so much as move. "Chop chop, I don't have all night." I balled up my clammy hands into fists but didn't say anything. "Speak," he said loudly. It made me flinch. "You obviously had something in mind when you decided to summon me, now didn't you? So talk." To my left, Michael muttered something. "Loudly, son, let us all hear what you have to say." An audible gulp followed. We didn't think you would come, Mr. Lucifer." The devil's chest shook with a silent chuckle. "I'm not Lucifer, kiddo. You really think you would waste his time on stupid shit like this? Nah, grunts like me are enough for this." Further to Michael's left, somebody was sobbing. Jonah or Ad, I couldn't tell. What are you?" Michael asked, his voice cracking. "Is that really the most important question for you right now?" No. "Then what is it you should be asking?" I spoke up before Michael could. "Will you let us go?" I noticed a flash of white teeth in the shadows as he grinned. "No, not if I can help it." A shudder ran through me. My knees right about gave out. "Please," Michael said, "let us go." "Nah, don't think so." "But we performed the ritual," he sobbed. "You have to." You failed at performing the ritual, you mean? You can't really expect to contain a demon with phony shit and a weak resolve, kids. You really can't. Sir, is there any way that we can leave? I asked. And now you finally asked the right question. Yes, Johnny, my boy, there is a way for the four of you to leave. Dear God, he knew my name. Well, what is it? Michael asked. Simple. One of you needs to give me his soul. What? I asked aghast. One soul, that's all I ask. Surely you guys can bring yourself to sacrifice one of your own. How about Adam? He can't listen to what's happening here right now, so he won't ever get to know what condemned him. How does that sound? Good? Yeah. Give me your buddy's soul and I'll let you all walk out of here alive. Don't, and I'll kill you for bothering me on this fine evening and go along on my merry way. Not a bad deal, right? I would take it if I were you. His offer shocked us all into silence. Finally, after a couple of agonizingly long moments, I opened my mouth, not quite believing what I was about to say. We would need some time to. Jonah cut me off. No, we can't. We can't kill him and condemn him to an eternity of torture. We can't. So do you want to take his place then? Michael asked, his voice somehow thick with sarcasm even in a situation as terrifying as this. No, Jonah replied, his voice wavering. But we can't do this to him. It's not right. Why not, Jonah? One of us has to die, so why not him? Or are you telling me that you have some other way of getting us out of here? I was practically screaming. And don't forget, Adam bullied the shit out of you. I mean, he was planning to scare the crap out of you, and now you want to be a martyr for him. What? So are you, Johnny, you piece of shit. How about we all kill you instead? Jonah shot back. Don't be stupid, Jonah, I said, trying not to let the dread that I was feeling creep into my voice. He's my friend, I don't want him to die. But if it's between me and him, I'm choosing myself. I agree, Michael whispered and then raised his voice. It's not right, but it's the only way out. In this situation, his is the only name that we all can agree on. It's the only way. Ed squeaked his agreement. Looks like you've been outvoted, Jonah, I said, feeling slightly relieved. It's not a democracy, Jonah protested. We can't leave Adam's fate up to a vote. You stupid suicidal idiot, I cursed. What is wrong with you? The demon clapped his hands, shutting us all up in an instant. As interesting as this conversation has been, and as much as I would like to watch this little ethical dilemma play out, I have better things to do tonight. So let me sweeten the deal a little bit. He paused for effect. 18 years, and let me feed on Adam's soul for 18 years and then I'll let you try and free him. Sounds fair. But I'm warning you, if you try to perform the ritual before those years are up, the demon who will be answering won't be nearly as nice as I've been. Remember, 18 years. I gave Jonah a quizzical look. He turned his head away in disgust. We have a deal, I said quickly before one of them could change their minds. He grinned, his teeth bared, reminding me of a shark. Finally. He clicked his fingers. The gap between the panels and the frame of the cabinet lit up with a blindingly bright orange glow. Smoke billowed out and sound came rushing back. Adam screamed and slammed into the door of the cabinet. My heart shriveled up as I heard and felt the agony in his voice. Sweat beaded on my forehead as tears gushed out of my eyes. I was listening to my friend's death throes. The screaming continued for what felt like hours, sawing themselves into our memory. We didn't try to help him, we couldn't. Our bodies wouldn't move. It felt like our nerves had been flooded with ice. We stood rooted to our spots like mannequins even as the smell of burning flesh swamped our nostrils. Adam's death left an utterly terrifying silence in its wake. I couldn't see the other three, but I knew that the same thought filled all our heads. What had we just done? Now run, you little shits. Run before I change my mind and decide to kill you all anyway. We didn't wait for him to say anything else and scrambled for the attic stairs, staying as far away from him as humanly possible. It was a stampede of rats that poured down the stairs, pulling and shoving and clawing and scratching to be the first one out. We damn near tore the front door right off its hinges as we ran out of the house, not even sparing a single glance towards the attic. We never spoke about that night again, not for another 18 years. They never found out what happened to Adam. He was reported missing, of course, but nobody ever found his body. A statewide search was called, but the rest of us kept our mouths tightly sealed. His disappearance broke his family. His dad drowned himself in liquor and his mother took her own life shortly after, but we still didn't say anything. Michael was the first to move out of town, for better educational prospects, he said, but we all knew better. I met him at the arcade one last time before he left. No mention was made of what had happened on that Halloween, but I could see its effects on his tired and hollowed face. Jonah, Ed, and I quickly followed, hoping to put the nightmare behind us in that shit stain of a town. But that night never left us. Its shadow stretched over our lives all 18 years, tormenting us day in and day out, until we had no other choice left but to return to our hometown and confront our demons. November 1st, 2018, 4:37 a.m. It's been 18 years since that night. Feels like an eternity to me. I've counted the days, the minutes, even the seconds down to this monumental milestone. I mean, how could I not? Everything that has happened to me, all the shit that I've been through in these agonizingly long years can all be traced back to what we all did in Michael's attic that Halloween. It's not like I wanted to spend all these years dwelling on the events of October 31st, 1999. Trust me, I wanted to forget all about it the second that I stumbled out of that cursed home, my dead best friend notwithstanding. I made a promise to that monster that I would return to free Adam's soul, but as much as it pains me to admit this, I was lying. Forget returning to that house. I wasn't even going to talk about it or what we did there ever again. But unfortunately for me, the demon knew that I was lying to him. He knew that none of us, barring Jonah, were ever truly planning on going back there again. And so he made sure that we were all compelled to do so. You know what I regret the most? It's not that we sacrificed Adam to save ourselves. That I could justify to my consciousness by telling it that we had no other choice but to do what we did. Now the one thing that truly makes me want to slam my head into a spiked fence is what I had said during the ritual. I had wisely kept my deepest secrets close to me, but I had been foolish enough to blabber about my most heartfelt desire, because the demon made it come true. I became the world's greatest professional wrestler. It's just that no one knows about me. I'm the guy whose clips you see on YouTube while you're 11 recommendations deep in your lazy surfing. The guy with the most insane spots in an independent show in front of about 30 people. The most fanatic of wrestling fanatics will name me as one of the most technically gifted performers of all time. But that's the extent of it. My face isn't plastered over television screens. I have no action figures made in my image. I don't have millions of kids queuing up to buy my t-shirts every year. Hell, I barely make enough money to put food on the table. Better than Bret Hart, my ass. I tried quitting. Night after night, I put my neck on the line in life-threatening spots and decided that this is it. I'm done, I'm out. I'm gonna go out and find an actual job that pays well and doesn't come with such dangerous risks. But every time I do, I'm taken with a strange fever. My skin turns red hot. My breath seizes in my chest. Sweat starts gushing out of every pore in my body, and I start grunting and tossing and turning in bed until I finally change my mind and decide to stick to wrestling. Sometimes I'll convince myself that my condition is physical and not supernatural, and try to tell the next wrestling promoter that I'm working for that I'm done and I'm out. But then the sickness returns with an enraged vengeance. God, why didn't I just say that I wanted to be a librarian or something? Michael, Ed, and Jonah had the same experience as me. I mean, I always suspected that they did. Didn't know for sure because I didn't speak to them until just a few hours ago. 18 minutes before it became 18 years since we performed the ritual, I found myself in front of what used to be Michael's house. I was shocked to see that not much had changed. The well-paved road of the cul-de-sac, rows of nearly identical houses, neatly trimmed hedges bordering well-maintained lawns, almost exactly as we had left it, right down to the Halloween decorations. I guess the cars were newer and some of the houses had been torn down and rebuilt. Minor changes, imperceptible scars on the face of an old friend. Michael's place was one of the many that hadn't seen any changes at all. From the cobblestone pathway leading up to the 3 wooden steps of the porch to the painted gray doors of the garage and even the twisting branches of the old oak. It was all the same. I could almost see a younger me hopping up the porch, knuckling the doorbell and waiting for his friend to let him in for some mischief. My grip tightened on the steering wheel of my battered truck as my heart thudded in my chest. The happy memories of my childhood were starting to be infected with the horrors of the attic. The screams, the smell of burning flesh, the smoke. I sucked in a deep breath, shook my head and climbed out of the truck, slamming the door shut behind me. My boots clicked awkwardly on the asphalt as I made my way towards the house. My knees still remembered the tombstone pile driver that I had given to my last opponent on a concrete floor. Didn't think you were gonna come. I jumped at the voice that boomed from somewhere behind me. I turned and saw a tall black man in his 30s walking toward me. Michael? He gave me a toothy grin. The very same. Jesus, I said as my eyes drifted over him. You look old. He did too. He was balding and graying, had deep circles under his tired eyes. Yeah, well, that's usually what 18 years do to people, Johnny. I smiled as I shook his hand. True. So, how have you been, man? Really? You have to ask. You know I wouldn't be here if I was doing okay. I nodded awkwardly. I've seen some of your matches on YouTube, by the way. I had to spend hours looking them up, of course. Boy, you're as good as you said you wanted to be, and then some. He gave a tired smirk. That guy got you just as good as he got me, didn't he? Yeah, it seems like he did. What did he do to you? Well, I asked to be an F1 driver, didn't I? Well, he got half of that right. You're looking at the city's fastest Uber driver, brother. One with a back so messed up from staying in a seated position in a confined space. It's the most painful thing imaginable for the poor guy, leaving him with no choice but to rack up speeding tickets. Christ, I'm just hoping to end it all tonight, man. Yeah, I didn't tell him that I didn't think we could actually end it. So where are the others? You think they're all just as messed up as us then? He shrugged. They've gotta be. I mean, you can bet your ass that our dear demon is not gonna half-ass any. He was cut off by a pair of bright yellow lights that splashed on him, temporarily blinding him. I squinted as I craned my neck and looked at the source of the sudden illumination. Headlights. A black SUV had just been parked on the street. Its doors opened and 2 figures climbed out. I recognized one of them, Jonah. I could recognize that face anywhere. He was taller than last that I had seen him, but not by much. He had filled out his frame nicely enough though, must have been working out. He was wearing an expensive-looking suit too. Why the hell does he look healthy and rich? I heard Michael ask. I didn't answer, for my attention was drawn towards the other man. He was the thinnest person that I had ever seen in my life. Nothing but pale and spotted skin stretched over frail bones. I would never in my wildest dreams have guessed who it was if he hadn't been accompanying Jonah. Holy shit, I whispered. Well, he wanted to lose some weight, didn't he? Michael said sardonically. I sincerely doubt he wanted to lose all of it. Jonah waved his hand as he got close to us. Hey Johnny, Michael, I'm glad to see you've decided to come. That's good. We'll have a much better shot at getting it done if we're all here. Ed sidled up to him and gave us an unsure wave. Hey. Man, you look like you had a good life, Jonah, I said. How the hell is that possible? Jonah's mouth dropped open. Are you kidding me? No, I haven't had a good life, Johnny. Thank you very much. It's been hell these past 18 years. I still have nightmares about that night. The guilt, it eats me up. I can't have a normal relationship to save my life. I've spent a fortune on therapy and it didn't do anything. Why do you have a fortune to spend? I asked and then turned to look at Michael. Why does he have a fortune to spend? What, you didn't know? Michael replies bitterly. Our dear Jonah is a hotshot doctor, one of the fastest rising stars in his hospital. It's because I buried myself in my work, Michael. I had to keep my sanity. Oh, cry me a river, I spat. Yeah, screw you too then, Johnny, he fired back. You know what, now that I look at you, maybe I am a little better off, but maybe, just maybe, it's your fault for being a piece of shit and getting Adam killed. Oh, I got Adam killed. No, don't you dare put that shit on me. You were more than happy to go along with it. I was not, and you know it. Just like you know it's your fault that he's dead. Performing the ritual to prank us, knowingly messing it up and letting the demon get stronger, and then when shit goes wrong, immediately throwing your best friend under the bus to save your own butt. It's all you, Johnny, all you. Spit was practically flying from his mouth. I gritted my teeth and balled up my fists. Okay, blame me all you like, it doesn't change the fact that your hands are just as bloody as mine. Guys, stop. You know what your problem is? You're a coward, Jonah, you always were. Stop. I flinched until he had just screamed and I had forgotten that Ed was even here. Stop, okay, he said, shivering. You're both right and you're both wrong. Johnny, you can't judge Jonah. You don't know what he's been through. He's had to deal with his own shit, so you don't have to pile your own on top of it. Also, even if he is as well off as you say he is, he still came back now, didn't he? He didn't have to, but he did. Doesn't that prove that he still cares about us? About Adam? I looked away sharply. And Jonah, he continued, it's shitty to blame Johnny for what happened. He didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, who would have thought an actual demon was going to pop up? We were all just kids doing stupid kid stuff, so don't hold that against him. And it's not just his fault that Adam's dead. We're all to blame for it, all of us, you got that? Yeah, he whispered. So now can we please do what we came here to do and end this nightmare once and for all? Amen, Michael muttered. Less than a minute later, we were standing on the doorstep of what used to be Michael's house with all the necessary ingredients for the ritual in our hands. So, how do we do this? Do we ring the doorbell and ask the homeowners to let us in to summon a demon in their attic? Oh, what else do you suggest? Michael asked. We break in or something. Move, Jonas said as he pushed his way past us and slid a key into the door lock. Why do you have that? Michael asked. Because he bought the house, Ed said as he shot me a sharp look. Jonah nudged the door open and we stepped in. The place looked like it hadn't seen any occupants in years. No furniture in sight, damaged wooden floor caked in layers of grime, torn wallpaper, exposed wiring, dirt-speckled glass windows. If it hadn't been dark, we wouldn't have missed the signs of decay from the outside. It looks a lot different from how I remember it, Michael mused. God, so many memories here. And nightmares too, I added. Let's get a move on, Jonah said. The less time we spend here, the better. Place makes my skin crawl. Yet you bought it, I thought, but I bit back the words before they could spill out of my mouth. The climb to the attic was silent and tense. The vein in my forehead pulsed in rhythm with our footsteps, which sounded like marching drums at a funeral. My hands were shaking and my face was coated in sweat. I felt my heart skip a beat as I heard the door creak open. We shuffled into the attic, which was much darker and gloomier than the last time we had seen it. The circular window had been boarded up such that not even a sliver of moonlight seeped in, forcing us to use our phones' flashlights to guide our way. Dust motes swirled in the beams of silver light that shivered and crisscrossed each other. The place was still cramped. In fact, it seemed to have collected even more junk in the past 18 years, all resting under layers of dust and rat poop. And did the new owners not bother cleaning this place up? Ed asked. Oh, neat, it's still here, Michael said as his hands brushed over a rotting toy box. No, they said they didn't like spending time up here, Jonah answered. Bad vibes. Not surprising, I muttered. I froze where I was standing as I spotted an old chair tucked in a corner. Looking at it, I could almost imagine the monster that had once sat on it. God, everything is exactly the same, I said. All right, Jonah said as he stood at the spot where we had last performed the ritual. Let's get started. The circle was smaller this time, owing to our large bodies and the reduced space made possible by the added junk, and I was thankful for it. Having my friends within touching distance gave me a sense of false courage. We turned off our phone's flashlights as Michael lit 3 candles and placed them inside the carved pumpkin that Jonah had retrieved from his car. After the grinning pumpkin had started glowing, he handed out the strips of paper. We immediately set about writing our names on them. I had to take a pause and steady my hand before I could finish scribbling mine. How long had I waited for this moment? How often had I imagined how it would all play out, scene by scene, second by second? And now that it had finally arrived, why couldn't I get my nerves under control? My shirt had been soaked through with sweat. Even my longest and hardest fought matches hadn't made me sweat buckets like this. Screw it, I said, holding the paper at the corner to stop my sweaty fingers from smudging my name. I'll go first, just like last time, okay? Hey, Jonah said, his voice raised a notch higher than normal. Be honest, totally honest. Don't mess around, okay? I gritted my teeth but just nodded in reply before tossing my paper into the jack-o'-lantern. What I want more than anything is to be free from this demon, to live a normal life without having some demonic bad luck messing everything up in sight. The others looked at me expectantly. I sighed. And I want Adam's soul to be freed from his torment. One by one, they nodded approvingly. I continued. My greatest secret is the fact that I know that my wife has been cheating on me, but I'm too much of a coward to do anything about it. I can't bear the thought of not seeing my daughter again. She's the only good thing in my life right now. It felt like a boulder had been lifted off my shoulders after I finished speaking. Tears stung my eyes and I felt strangely relaxed. It surprised me, for I thought that I would have surely felt too embarrassed to look any of them in the eye. Michael patted my back before he began his turn. What I want more than anything is for this nightmare to end. I would love to have a job that doesn't involve me messing up my back any worse than it already is now. Oh, and yeah, release Adam too, man. That poor guy has suffered enough. Hear, hear, Ed whispered. My biggest secret, Michael said as he rubbed his eyes and exhaled. I'm gay. No one in my family knows. I've only ever slept with strangers who don't know my name. In fact, of all the people who do know my name, you guys are the first to know this. It's cowardly, it's shameful, I know, but I just can't risk losing my family, man. I just can't. Thank you, Michael, Jonah said. That was very brave of you. It was, Ed and I said at the same time. My turn, Jonah said as he tossed his paper in. Thunder rolled in the sky outside, right on cue. What I want more than anything is for my father to remember me one last time before he dies. He has Alzheimer's and it's been painful watching him waste away. He had started to choke, so Ed squeezed his shoulder and whispered to him that he could make it through this. And to free Adam, of course. I mean, it's the only reason I've come here. I feel a strong sense of guilt and, of course, responsibility. I was to blame for putting him in this state. It's only fair that I can help release him. He seemed to turn glassy in the candlelight. My biggest secret is the fact that I almost killed a man. I drank too much one night, showed up for surgery the next morning with a massive hangover. I nicked an artery and the poor kid almost bled to death. And Dad had helped me cover it up, of course. I haven't touched alcohol since that day. Jesus, no wonder he was so insistent on saving Adam. I couldn't help but feel a shameful tinge of satisfaction blooming in the pit of my belly. I quickly stamped it out. Guess I'm last, Ed said as he leaned forward and gently let his paper fall into the pumpkin. What I want more than anything is to be healthy again, To not be ashamed of my weight, to not wake up every morning and look at the mirror and think that I'm fat, to not want to shoot more drugs into my veins, and to bring my dead mother back to life and tell her just how much she messed me up. And to help free Adam, of course. Every single one of us had led a hellish life to get to this point. The question was, would finishing this ritual truly fix things? Shit seemed too bleak for that to be true. My deepest secret, Ed said, his voice cracking. His chest shook as he started sobbing. I killed a man, a junkie friend by the name of Robbie. We had been using together for some time and had almost driven ourselves to the point of bankruptcy. One evening he came to my apartment and told me that he had scored some coke. Cheap, but very effective. Oh, it was effective, all right. He died in front of me. I didn't do shit, I just sat there next to his corpse, high out of my mind. He broke down crying, hiding his face in his hands and bawling like a small child. I would have comforted him had the demon not arrived. The room turned darker, shadows thicker than ink writhed at the far reaches of the candlelight, licking at the yellow glow with a ravenous hunger. The three flames wavered under the assault of the darkness, and then boots hammered on the attic steps. Without thinking, the four of us clasped our hands together. I could feel the fear in the clammy and shivering hands of Michael and Jonah. The boots grew closer and louder. The door creaked open. There he was, silhouetted by the light from the landing just like it had been all those years ago. Hadn't changed at all, unsurprisingly. He took his top hat off as the door swung shut behind him by itself. We watched in silence as he walked towards us at a leisurely pace. I fought back a desperate urge to scoot away from him as he came and stood in front of us. Well, 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 he said in a scratchy voice. So you boys had the balls to do this again, huh? Color me impressed. I thought for sure you would leave your friend to rot. Well, it's not like you left us with any choice, did you? I asked. The firmness in my voice surprised me. The demon chuckled. True, I did not. Regardless, I was sure at least one of you would have killed yourself by now. I'm pleasantly surprised to see that you're all still alive. Wow, I'm actually somewhat excited. A shiver ran through me at his words. What was he excited about? Was he going to continue playing with us? God, were we going to be trapped forever in his web? So, what do you boys want? Why exactly have you summoned me? You know why we summoned you, Jonah said. Let go of Adam's soul and stop harassing us and leave us all alone. I saw the demon nodding in the shadow. Sure, that was the deal, wasn't it? Yeah, I'm gonna let Adam go like you asked. How about that other, though? He let his words hang in the air almost threateningly. What do you mean? Ed asked, panic evident in his tone. You have to let us go. We did as you asked, and we made a deal. No, the deal was only about letting Adam's soul go, nothing else. I mean, you can't blame me, right? It's your fault for messing up the ritual and letting me get so much power over you. And I wouldn't be a very good demon if I didn't make use of such a delicious opportunity, now would I? You have to leave us all alone, Jonah insisted. No, I don't. Yes, you do, he said. You said that we didn't perform the ritual properly, true, but I did my part right, and that's the only reason you weren't able to mess with me quite like the others. So if we've done the ritual right this time, we have power over you and you have to listen to us. That's not true, the demon replied. I mean, look at your buddy Ed. He's pretty messed up, isn't he? No, he was just as cautious as you, I recall. Jonah didn't say anything, but I did. It's possible that Ed's life would have turned out like this regardless of your influence. Ed looked absolutely crushed, but I could see hope sparkle along with the candlelight in Jonah's eyes. You have to listen to us. No, I really don't. You have to. The demon stomped towards me. I have had it with these games. You think I can't destroy you if I so wish to. He grabbed me by the hair and pulled me up on my feet. The others screamed, but nobody actually moved to stop him. I was standing face to face with the demon. I couldn't see his face clearly in the dim candlelight, but I could tell that it was horribly disfigured. Half of it had been burned off, revealing necrotic tissue and rotting bones. He grabbed me by the jaw and forced me to look into his eyes. They were glowing like twin furnaces. Within them, I could see hell, pain, torture, red-hot barbed wire wrapped around naked flesh, iron spikes slowly being driven into wet skulls, rusted knives shearing off flesh and skin, baths of blood bubbling like acid. I heard the screams, unending and full of inhuman anguish. My mouth dropped open, drool dribbled down my jaw. I was slowly losing my grip on sanity. Stop! I was jolted back to reality. I stumbled and almost fell before a pair of strong arms held me upright. It was Michael. I blinked furiously. In front of me, Jonah had his right hand wrapped tight around the demon's arm. Stop, I command you. The veins in the demon's arm bulged, but he obliged. I could see the rage in his twisted face, but he listened. Dear God, Jonah was right. Keep your word, demon. Release Adam and let us all leave. As you command, the demon spat and then snapped his fingers, before vanishing with an audible pop. What the hell? Michael said. Where did he go? Is it over? Ed asked. Did we win? I don't know, Jonah began. He was cut off by a rattling sound like somebody thrashing around in an enclosed space, one made out of wood. As one, we turned towards the white cabinet that Adam had used as his hiding spot. It was shaking. We started towards it as its door was kicked off its hinges and a tiny charred body stumbled out, sending flakes of ash drifting into the air. Adam! I shouted as we ran towards the body. He was writhing on the ground, but he was still alive. His mouth was open in a silent scream. We tried to help him, but he quickly fell silent before anything meaningful could be done. Was he alive? Michael asked. I found myself nodding. Yeah, at least for a couple of moments. What does it mean? Is his soul free now? Can he go to heaven? We don't know, Jonah said. But what we can say with some measure of confidence is that he's free of that demon's grasp. So it's over then? Ed asked. Yeah, it's over. It's finally over. We spent the rest of the night hiding Adam's burnt corpse. We decided to bury him on a hill overlooking our town. It was a good spot. He used to love riding his bike out there. I think that he would like that to be his last resting place. We made promises to stay in touch, but somehow I don't think that's going to happen. I could see it in their eyes. They want to put this all behind and move on with their lives. I'm sure that they could sense the same in me. Maybe it'll be for the best. A fresh start by snapping all the ties that we had to our hellish past. But will it truly be a fresh start? I think so. I've already sent emails to the independent promotions that I've been working for that I plan on resigning, and I haven't felt the gut-churning sickness that would usually force me to take my decision back yet. A fresh start. I feel like I can finally dare to hope.